Hello friends, welcome to my channel. In this video, you are going to learn how to make this cozy fall sweater for large sizes XXL to 3XL using your Sentro knitting machine with 48 needles. I will guide you step by step and show you all the tips and tricks. I made this sweater for a family friend whose picture you can see on the right hand side. Her measurements are around 120 centimeters bust, so this is around the size XXL to 3XL. On the left hand side, it's a picture of me in this exact same sweater. So actually, if you want a really oversized sweater for yourself, you can also use this pattern. But also if you have a friend or a family member or you are wearing a large size, this will be also perfect for you. So these pictures are the examples of how it would fit for size XXL to 3XL versus M size, which I'm wearing on the left hand picture. If you worked with the Sentro knitting machine before, you know that the maximum number of needles that you can use in the panel mode is 44 needles, which gives us a limited width of our panel. That is why our sweater, especially in the larger size, is made out of several panels that are then sewn together. So both the front and the back consist of 3 panels and the sleeves consist of 2 panels. And I will show you step by step exactly how to knit every panel on the Sentro knitting machine, how to assemble them, and how to hand finish the hems, the neckline. So everything is going to be shown and you will be able to create the exact same sweater as you are seeing on your Sentro knitting machine. Here you can take a look once again at the fit of the sweater on me. Honestly, although it's so large, it's so cozy that I would honestly wear it, although it's not my size. And here is how it looks on the family friend. She was quite happy with the result. I think it fits her quite well. It's a perfect project for those fall weekends, and you can give this as a present to a loved one or just make it for yourself. So let's get started. The yarn I'm using is the Drops Charisma yarn. It's a 100% superwash wool which can be washed in a washing machine, and I really do recommend this yarn because it works really well with the Sentro knitting machine. This is tried and tested. The color of this yarn is light beige brown, but of course you can pick the color that you want. It comes in a variety of colors. It's affordable, it's 100% natural, so I cannot recommend this yarn enough. But if you want to use a different yarn, please be mindful of the yarn gauge, because all the calculations for this pattern are made for this exact yarn, and its gauge is 14 stitches and 20 rows in 10 centimeters. Now please be mindful that the gauge that is provided sometimes on the package of the yarn is not the same that will be on the Sentro machine, because the Sentro machine is knitting basically with its own gauge, which you cannot change. So if you want to use a different yarn, please buy a sample of it and test it on the Sentro knitting machine. Make a small swatch, for example 15 stitches and let's say 30 rows, and then measure how many stitches and how many rows you have in this swatch. And it's best to wash the swatch as well before measuring. Wash and dry it, because after washing the yarn can stretch. Please check if the gauge is 14 stitches and 20 rows in 10 centimeters, which it should be for you to use this exact pattern. If your gauge is less than 14 stitches in 10 centimeters, your final sweater will be larger, and if your gauge is more than 14 stitches in 10 centimeters, your sweater will be smaller than in this pattern. So be mindful of that. For custom Sentro patterns according to your precise measurements, be sure to check out roundrow.art. With that, let's start our project, and of course we are going to start with the cast on of required number of stitches, and I will show you how to cast on Sentro. Crank the handle until the white needle is in front of you. Crank the handle again a little bit so that the needle number 3 is now in front of you. We will start casting on from the needle number 3, which is very important. Your machine should be set on the panel mode. Place the yarn in front of a needle and start cranking the handle, alternating between putting the yarn in front and behind the needle as you go. After casting on the required number of stitches, bring the yarn around the hook place it into the yarn holder and then into the tension holder, into the first two holes of the tension holder. We are going to start our project with the front right panel. Cast on 37 stitches. Remember to start from the needle number 3. Start cranking the handle in the opposite direction. You might need to hold the loose end of the yarn a little bit just to help yourself here. From this point on, start counting the rows that you knit. The first 2 rows are never counted in this tutorial as rows, so I deem them like a starting rows. But after that you start counting, and in this case you need to knit 95 rows, just straight rows, and I will meet you there when you knit those 95 rows. After 95 rows, you should have something like that, a piece of knitted panel from the bottom of the sweater to the underarm. And now we will be starting the underarm shaping. We will start shaping the underarm from row number 96. To do this, you will need to take 5 stitches and remove them from the machine. Remove the yarn from the tension holder and the yarn holder, start cranking the handle, and remove the stitches one by one onto a tapestry needle. Now purl the first 2 stitches and slide the second stitch through the first. Purl the third stitch and slide again the third through the second. Continue until you have just 1 stitch left. In this way, you will decrease 4 stitches and have a neat bind off to form your underarm. Place the last remaining stitch onto the first available needle on the left, tighten the yarn a little bit, and place it again into the tension holder and the yarn holder. Continue cranking the handle to finish this row. Then crank in the opposite direction to make another row. My underarm stitch actually slipped from the hook, so be mindful of that and keep an eye on that. Now we are going to start our raglan decreases to form a raglan line. To do that, remove the yarn from the tension holder and the yarn holder and remove 2 stitches from the hooks, one by one. Then you will need to place on the same hook first the outer stitch and then the inner stitch. You're placing them both on the same hook. Return the yarn to the yarn holder and the tension holder and crank the handle to finish this row. This way we have done 1 raglan decrease. Make another row to return to the same place, and now I will show you a little bit closer how to do that. So we are removing 1 stitch and another stitch, and then we are placing the outer stitch on the needle and then the inner stitch on the same needle or hook. And we are returning the yarn into the yarn holder and the tension holder. And this way we have done another raglan decrease. We will be alternating between decreasing 1 stitch and 2 stitches. So now I will show you how to decrease 2 stitches. To decrease 2 stitches, you will need to remove 3 stitches from the machine onto the needle, and then you will place on the same needle the middle stitch, then the outer stitch, and then the inner stitch. All 3 on the same needle, which is the first available needle on the left. Then return the yarn into the yarn holder and the tension holder and crank the handle to start the row. And this way we are forming our raglan line through decreases. Here is the decrease pattern. Please be mindful that in some rows you will decrease 1 stitch and in some rows you will decrease 2 stitches. The row count is restarted once we start the raglan decreases. It's just easier to count from row number 1 again versus 98. Once you have just 4 stitches left, you make the last 2 decreases. First 2 stitches, and then the last 2 stitches are combined together and knitted together. And that's it! Congratulations! We have got our right front panel ready. Now the left front part is made exactly the same way, however it is mirrored, so the decreases will be done on the other side now. So here are the instructions recap for you. So you cast on again 37 stitches, you knit 94 rows, and then you bind off 4 stitches for underarm, but now you bind them off on the right hand side closer to the white hook versus farther from the white hook as you have done for the right front panel. And the raglan decrease is exactly the same you are doing on the right hand side versus on the left hand side as you have done for the right front panel. And now it's time for the middle front part. This is basically just a long, narrow piece which has no raglan decreases, but it will have a neckline. So it will have neckline decreases. So to start us off, we cast on 22 stitches and we knit straight for 100 rows. After 100 rows, you should have a piece like this. And now we start our V-neck decreases. So first we need to decrease the 2 middle stitches. So we count and find the 2 stitches that are in the middle. We remove the yarn from the tension holder and the yarn holder, and then we pick up the stitches and remove them from the machine, the 2 middle stitches and 1 more stitch from the right hand side. Be mindful that some of the stitches on the left might be dropping, so keep an eye on them and place them back on the needles if they fall off. So we pick up the 2 middle stitches and 1 more stitch from the right hand side, and we make a decrease by putting the middle stitch, then the outer stitch, and then the inner stitch all together on the same needle, and then we knit the row to the end, and then we start knitting just the right part of the of the panel, and we will knit both parts separately. So we will finish first the right hand side part of the neckline and then the left hand side of the neckline. You see, I secured one stitch on the left on a hook just because it kept falling off, so you can do the same. And we continue forming the neckline by decreasing one stitch every fourth row. When there are just 2 stitches left, we combine them together onto one hook and knit them together. And we are done with the right side of our neckline. This is how it should look, more or less, so you see we formed a nice V neckline here. Now crank the handle till you reach another side of the neckline, and now we will do the same for the left hand side. So you will need to cut the yarn and start with a new piece of yarn. I see that I dropped some stitches here, so I will just quickly fix that. So we start with a new piece of yarn and we start to decrease in the same pattern as before, which is 1 stitch every 4th row. Now it's time to assemble your front part. You can absolutely do it at the end, but I was just impatient. I wanted to see the first result of my work, so I personally assembled the front parts as soon as I knitted the left, the front, the right and the middle part. So we assembled the front part by using the mattress stitch and just sewing together all the parts vertically. What you need to do is pick up the horizontal bars between the edge stitch and the first row stitch, and you will do it on the right side and then on the left side, from bottom to the top. I pick up 2 bars at a time. I find it works quite well. It's a bit faster than picking up just 1 bar. And I'm using white double sewing thread. I mentioned that the mattress stitch is done on the right side, so the right side is facing you, and on the other side the seam will form. So from the side that is facing you, the seam will be invisible. After a couple of stitches, tighten the thread by pulling on both sides and you will see the result. The seam is almost invisible on the right side. And this is our ready front panel. I think it looks quite nice. Don't worry about any minor imperfections at this point, because we will hand finish the neckline, and after washing, the stitches will be much neater, and even the seams will become even more invisible. And now on to the back panel of our sweater. It will consist of the left, the right part and the middle part. Here I have put instructions for you for the left and the right part, which are done basically the same as the front left and right parts. However, the raglan decreases are slightly different, just because the back part is slightly longer to prevent the sweater from riding up in the front. So please make sure that you follow the raglan decreases provided here and not just copy what you did for the front part. And here are your instructions for the back middle part. You cast on 22 stitches you need for 135 rows straight. Then we will bind off 10 middle stitches to the back neckline and finish each half separately. And we will make just 6 decreases on each side in 3 rows. So 2, 2 and 2 decreases. After 135 rows, in the next row, find your 10 middle stitches. Remove the yarn from the tension holder and the yarn holder, and you will need to transfer those 10 stitches to a tapestry needle, and then you will bind them off in the same way that you did the armhole bind off. If you have circular needles, it would be much easier to transfer those stitches to a longer circular needle, which will make it easier to work with the stitches. And now you do the bind off the same way that you did for the underarm. So you purl stitches and you slip them through each other. After you have bind off 10 stitches, you return the last one to the first available needle on the right. You return the yarn to the tension holder and the yarn holder. You finish the row. And then we decrease 2 stitches. To decrease 2 stitches, you pick up 3 stitches and you place first the middle stitch, then the inner stitch, the outer stitch, and then the inner stitch onto the needle and knit them together. And again we decrease 2 stitches once more. Finish the row and we have just 3 stitches left. We combine them all into 1 stitch. And knit all 3 together. And one part of our back neckline is done. We cut the thread or the yarn. Now we need to crank the handle until we reach the other part of the neckline. Again, I have some drop stitches here which I need to fix. And we repeat the same process for the other side, decreasing the innermost stitches. And our back middle part is done. Let's now assemble the back panels. This is the same as assembling the front panels. You do it with a mattress stitch, so you sew the parts together from bottom to the top, and this is the final result. We are halfway there. The only thing that is left to be knit is the sleeves. So obviously we have the left and the right sleeve, and both consist of two parts. Now what I want you to remember here is that the back part and the front part of the sleeve is not the same. The back part, which is the one that is closer to the back of the sweater, is always slightly higher, and the front part slightly lower, so they form a slope at the top of the sleeve. And I will give you exact instructions on how to knit each part of each sleeve, so just make sure to follow them because it might be slightly confusing, and it's important that you get it right, because otherwise your sleeves will not match or fit. And we will start with the front part of the left sleeve. So for our sleeve, cast on 17 stitches. You will knit 79 rows, but when knitting them you will increase one stitch in the following rows that I put on a screen. And it is done in order for the sleeve to become wider from your wrist towards the top of your arm. The increasing of a stitch is much easier than the decrease. You just continue to knit for one more stitch at the end of the row, just as I'm showing on the screen, and then backwards, and this is one increased stitch. Continue to knit and increase in the rows shown on the screen. After knitting 79 rows, you have on one side a straight line, and on the other side you have a sloped line with increases. And now we are going to start our underarm shaping. You will need to bind off 4 stitches on the side where you did the increases. Left sleeve front part, this will be the left side, and you do the bind off exactly as you did already for the previous panels that we knitted. You bind off 4 stitches for the underarm. In row 82 we start our raglan decreases, which will last for 50 rows, and we will decrease always just one stitch in the rows that I put on the screen. And we do the decreases on the same side where we did the increases and the bind off. As a reminder, we restart the row counter when we start raglan decreases, so row number 1 here means actually row number 82, but it's just much easier to restart the row counter here. After we are done with raglan decreases, we have just 5 stitches left, and we need to shape the very top of the sleeve. To do that, we will bind off the first 3 stitches the same way that we did for the underarm bind off. And then we are going to combine the last 2 stitches into one, decreasing the stitch, and we have our front part of the left sleeve ready. Let's finish the left sleeve, but now we will do the back part of the left sleeve. The very important difference here is that we are going to cast on starting from the hook number 17. This is very important because the increases will now go in the opposite direction, so we will increase towards your right, so we will need some free space and free hooks there to increase. So you will need 80 rows, increasing in the rows that I put on the screen, and you will increase just one stitch in every of those rows. The increases will be on the right side. Now you are going to bind off 4 stitches for underarm on the same side where you did the increases. After that, start the raglan decreases on the same side where you just did the bind off and the increases, and you will decrease 1 stitch in every row that I put on the screen. When there are 5 stitches left, we will shape the very top of the sleeve, and we will decrease now on the opposite side to shape the slope of the sleeve. So on the opposite side of where you did the decreases before, bind off 2 stitches first. Then decrease 1 stitch on the same side. And with the 2 stitches left, just combine them into one and knit them together. And this way we have shaped the back part of the sleeve. And now when we look at the sleeves together, we can see that they both create this side neckline of the raglan. Now for the right sleeve, here are your detailed instructions on how to knit the back part and the front part, and please follow this closely to ensure that you will have the correct fit. Now let's assemble our sleeves, and we will do that using the mattress stitch and sewing the 2 parts of the sleeve from the bottom to the top vertically. And this is the assembled sleeve. As you see, it forms a nice side neckline, which is sloped from the back towards the front. Now we need to sew the sleeve together with the front and the back panels. Please be mindful of the right and left sleeve, because they are not identical, they are mirrored, so the slope at the top of the sleeve should be higher at the back part and lower at the front. So combine the raglan lines of the sleeve with the front, and you will just sew them together, but you will do it on the left side, on the wrong side. So you will put the right side together with the wrong side facing you, and you will use the back stitch and the double sewing thread to sew the pieces together along the raglan line. Make sure to tighten your back stitch from time to time to keep it pretty tight, That way it will not be visible when the sweater is worn on the right side. And if you have a sewing machine, I think that you can easily do this stitch on a sewing machine. Unfortunately, I don't have one, so I am doing it by hand. But it will definitely save you some time if you do it on a sewing machine. Now that I have attached the right sleeve to the front panel, I need to attach it to the back panel as well. So I'm doing it the same way, putting the right sides together with the wrong side facing me and aligning the raglan lines and sewing it together with a back stitch. And repeating the steps for the left sleeve as well. Now we need to connect the sides of the sweater as well as the sides of the sleeves together. And we are using mattress stitch for that. This is a fully assembled sweater. Wow, it took some sewing, but the result is definitely worth it. Now it's time for the final touches and the hand finishes that are going to give our sweater a really finished and polished look. We are going to hand finish the hems of the sleeves, the hem of the sweater, as well as the neckline. Let's start with the neckline first. We are going to crochet stitch around the neckline in order to strengthen it a little bit, and then we will pick up stitches from this crochet stitch and finish our neckline with some ribbing. When doing the crochet stitch, do not focus on inserting the hook closest to the edge. Instead, focus on creating a neat line around the neck, because this is the point where we can fix any minor issues with the edge of our knitting. So the point of the crochet stitch is to create a neat neckline from which we will then pick up the stitches and do the ribbing around it. And here is how my neckline looks after applying the crochet stitch around it. Now pick up stitches using your crochet hook around the neckline, inserting the hook into the upper half of your chain stitch. Transfer the stitches to the circular knitting needles as you go. Here is how my neckline looks like after picking up stitches around the neckline from the crochet stitch. It is much neater compared to if we picked up stitches directly from the panels without the crochet stitch. And now you can hand knit any ribbon that you like for your V-neck. I knitted a simple 1x1 ribbing, and this is how it turned out. Now to finish off the hems of the sleeves, we are first going to transfer the first row of the stitches to our circular knitting needles. So you can take a look and see the thread that runs through the stitches of the first row. So you're going to pick up those stitches and just pull the yarn out of those stitches. Once you have all the stitches from your sleeve hem on the circular knitting needles, we are going to start to create our tucked edging for the sleeve hem. I decided to use 8 rows for my edging, so I count 8 rows below my first stitch on the needles. I insert my hook into the stitch, slip the first stitch from the needle, and then make a loop and pull it through. And the same I repeat for the second stitch. I insert the hook 8 rows below the stitch, I slip it from the knitting needle, I create a loop and pull it through, and then through the first stitch. And this way you go around the whole sleeve to create this tucked edging. This is what it looks like as a result. If you keep the stitch tight, it creates kind of a cinched effect on the sleeve hem, which I really like. This way we are finishing off the hems of both sleeves, as well as the hem of the sweater itself. And the only thing that remains is weaving in and hiding all of the loose ends. And this is the final result. I'm very proud of you if you've made it so far. This is not the easiest project that you could do on Sentro. I would say it's more of an advanced one, but I hope you are happy with the results. Please remember to wash your sweater very delicately. Do not dry it in a drying machine, and always dry it flat to prevent stretching out. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe to my channel. I will be sharing more tutorials of clothes you can make on your Sentro knitting machine. Thank you so much, and until next time, bye!